Hello, 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 everyone, and welcome back to yet again another Free Support Friday with yours truly, Fusion Phil, over here at jitcadcam. As always, guys, it is Friday. Some of you are still working. Some of you are programming parts, as I've seen already in the chat, while we are live and consuming all of this content. I've also got set up on my end. I actually put myself up on the big screen over in the corner of my office, so that I can see you guys and make sure that I have my screen pulled up, because, you know, it wouldn't be a normal jitcadcam thing if it wasn't for the fact that I either screw up the video, screw up my actual camera, or my audio sounds absolutely terrible. As you guys show up in chat, love to see it. Monty, how's it going? Bogdan, great to see you. Mateus has already got questions out there. Joe, great to have you. I know Joe Bob. Joe, was that you? Did you change it over? I think that was you. And then Rick, I don't know. Rick, did you make it in here? This guy had a comment on here, I think, like 2 days ago. Yeah, Joe's in here with a real name now. We don't have to call him a Joe Bob anymore. That's great. Great to see you guys. Great to have you. Gonna be a pretty wild week here. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure I had 40 hours in prior to Wednesday, I think. I think I was 40 hours by the end of Wednesday alone. That overtime that I don't get paid for because I run my own business, right? Awesome. We'll give this a few more minutes. I know a couple of YouTube posts just went out, and we'll make sure everybody gets in here before we kick things off. I do see Mateus with a question about Herco Inspect. Mateus, I'm going to need a little more information. Are you talking on the post side of Fusion, or are you talking on the machine itself? Mad Camper, how's it going? Got another one in there. I see more and more people still tricking in. So before we kick this all off, of course, I'm going to tell you guys right off the start, I appreciate all the beers you guys have been buying. I know Monty himself, it was funny. I was standing at the gas station with a case of beer, and Monty's order, he put up the money for a case of beer while I was standing there. I almost took a photo and sent it to him. But as always, you guys, we love the likes. Go ahead and hit the like button down below as you guys are watching this today. We love the subscribes. We love when you guys share our content to other people, of course. Getting that out there for anybody and everybody. If you guys caught our Workflow Wednesday video this week, but I do enjoy those drinks. I will not be drinking those on stream. I will be drinking those all weekend. But you guys can always buy me a beer with the link down below. So let's dive into this. So we're going to give Mateus a little bit to get his answer in the chat about if he's talking about on the Fusion post side for Inspection Plus, or if he's referring to the machine controller itself. But I am going to kick this off trying to think of the best way to do this, because I had like 10 things coming in here and then I obviously forgot about them. But let's go ahead and get my screen pulled up. That's probably step one on my end. So actually, I got one pretty good for you guys. So I saw this one on one of the Facebook groups this week. So let's go ahead and pop this open. And I'm just going to grab just about any part. You know what? We're just going to use the block, right? So with that block, I'm going to be able to set things up. You guys are actually going to be a little privileged this week. You're about to see I got a little visitor that should be somewhere else. Where did she go here? You want to say hi? So this is the future of jitcadcam, one of the multiple that are running around. Can you say hi? Can you wave? Say hi. Hi. Oh, you want to say hi too? Yeah. Oh, they can't see you. You got to come around to the other side. You guys got to go back to mom in a minute. Go ahead and say hi. So you guys are getting some visitors today. We'll go find mom. But all right, there we go. We got that out of the way. The kids love it whenever I have my camera going. So as you guys can see, I have a part file here. The whole suggestion that somebody was saying is trying to get good views on a part, right? When you're looking at a part, or in my case, you guys see on my thumbnails, I take screenshots. There's also things with the drawing side and the drawing content out there. But an easy way to always make sure, if I went in and did an isometric view, but I want it to tilt up a little bit, or again, I need one of like a left versus a right, a quick and easy way to do this is to actually add an additional component or body in the background. So something I might actually do on this part is draw a rectangle or create a sketch. Now, again, this is up to you guys how you do it. I'm actually going to do a sketch. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it kind of fancy, because why not, right? So we're going to go with a polygon. Now, the size of your polygon and all that isn't going to make the biggest difference. But what I'm doing is I'm just creating something for reference, right? So this is going to be a new body. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add draft to it because this is, again, some of the easier ways to do some of this. So again, we could either add draft, which if you guys didn't know, draft is just going to tilt these faces in or outwards. So again, we could bring that in. But the idea is based on that body, when I'm trying to look at certain views or certain angles, down here at the bottom, I could do a look at, and then I can pick my face. And as you guys, I squared up to my part. I don't know who designed this, but you should never have two bodies in the same area here. But now that I've squared up here, I could hit something like F6 to zoom in. And if I did a print screen, but the same thing goes as now if I wanted to, of course, rotate back the other way, again, we could do a look at this face and kick that off. Again, F6 if you're on a Windows machine. On Mac, I don't know how many of you guys out there use Mac or Apple. Go ahead and tell everybody in chat whatever that hotkey is. Is it a function 6 or a command 6? I never know at the end of the day, right? But again, super neat way if you're really looking to create very clean views and very clean angles of stuff you do is that look at button, pick your face, of course, now squared up again, preferably turn off the right part, and F6 if you wanted to bring it fully in so that you could snap those snapshots. So again, just something simple out the start to get you guys going. I thought you guys would like that idea. I do have some actual other really cool things that I've yet to play with, but I've seen it a couple of times now, so I'm trying to think of the best part to throw in here. So now, for a lot of you, I think most of you are all CAM users like myself, right? And we've all in some way, shape, or form came across a time where something like a spun profile by this checkbox in your setup has or has not worked, right? Now, we have started to sell and support Future Cam over here, and we have a video that we did just release today on the basics of turning, but they do something inside their software that is being able to extract a spun profile. Now, I've noticed it a bunch, and I've yet to test it. Like I said to you guys, there is a way. I think we have to create a sketch first, so let's go ahead and throw a sketch on our part. But I believe there is a spun profile kind of button somewhere. I know I've seen it. I'm not going crazy. You know what we're going to do? We're going to back out of this, and I'm going to do the standard search with the S key. And where is it? Maybe I'm crazy. You guys tell me in chat if I'm losing my mind. Or is it in the manufacturer side for some reason, right? Let's try that again. I have to be wildly crazy. Maybe I'm just lying to you guys this week. Does anybody know where it's at? Is it hiding? Going once, going twice out there in chat. Is it? Let's see here. There it is. I knew it was somewhere. Guys, I'm not going crazy. I tell you guys, I see this stuff, right? So what you have is the ability to project include spun profile. So this is an interesting one because based on our part profile, again, we're going to give this a go. First time I'm going to do this here. Let's see what happens. So here's my part. I need to give this a center axis, of course, and I can now see this red line profile that is generating a spun profile for me. So again, as you guys are seeing, there is some very neat tools inside of Fusion to extract basically a spun profile of your part. Now, a lot of you may be wondering, why is that valuable? Again, if I wanted to revolve that and use that as just strictly my turning body, again, we're going to go in with a new body here, that is now my turning profile for being able to utilize later on in the machining process, right? So again, if I wanted to simply jump from design to manufacture, I have a lathe set up here. I would have defined my model in this case, could have been that solid that we created from a spun profile. Now, this is something I haven't covered yet, and I want to in the coming weeks on a video, is in lathe turning toolpaths, that some of you may now noticed there is, if I can find it, maybe I'm being a liar again, there is an area to add a model. It's not going to be on face, of course. What am I thinking? It is going to be in somewhere. Let's go ahead and do a little bit of an adaptive clearing here so I could try to find it. I'm not going to let you guys win this week. Not going crazy. But as you can see up here at the top, we have what's called model. Now, this is based on contours. So again, as you guys saw, I spun that profile. However, what I need is the model contours. Is this going to work with projected lines? I have no idea because we are going to learn today, right? So again, let's go ahead and get that body out of the way. Let's get our sketch turned back on. And let's see if we can grab that profile. So we can grab that profile. So as you guys are seeing, we grabbed a closed chain. Now we're going to just test this, right? I'm a big fan of giving stuff the bare minimums here. We're going to hit OK. And just like that, based on that sketch geometry, we were able to actually grab that chain and utilize that for our profile. Now, some of you may be questioning, like, what is the value here, Fusion Phil? Well, the value is by using a sketched contour, if I wanted to leave certain material on faces, or if I wanted to go in and skip over grooving areas, that model setting in combination with the spun profile would allow me to obviously go in and add to the sketch as much as I want. Say, for example, I'm just going to bridge this gap here. And then if we go back now, again, I'm in the world of breaking Fusion today. We are just cutting edge as much as we can be. There is my roughing cycle. I'm going to go ahead and change the chain. That's a tongue twister. Alon, how's it going? I see you out there. So what we're going to do is instead of selecting a full profile here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my Alt key. Oh, looks like it doesn't want to give me just an individual piece. So again, let's try this again. Now we have an individual piece. So what I'm doing is looking to get over that gap. Again, if you guys wanted to sketch an extension because you're working with a casting, in this case, we're not going to go all the way down. I'm actually going to manually add 100 on both ends. And again, this was really neat. It just so happens that the timing worked out perfect with the adaption of feature cam and the extracting of the curves when you're doing feature recognition. But again, that ability to project, I'm going to say project a spun profile so that you can use that profile in certain toolpaths using model at the lathe level. So let me know down below if you guys, wow, we have 26 people in here. That's a high score. 26, oh, nope, never mind. That's 26 views. I can't read. I can't see straight apparently. But anyways, as you guys can see, again, that project spun profile, very handy at the end of the day. Again, to create your toolpaths and to set your toolpaths off of. Now, if we go in, we're going to derive this straight over to a finishing. Again, that model contour is still coming into play. And as you can see, we're, of course, following in, up, and around our part to utilize, once again, the projected spun profile that we created. Again, jumping over top of that groove. Just a little different workflow. You guys let me know what you think about that. So I'm going to pivot. I haven't seen Mateus come back yet. I'm going to go ahead and check the ticket system. So from this side, I'm going to go ahead and no tickets have came in yet. So none of you guys are sending us. If you guys want to send me anything to work on live part-wise or a piece of a part, as some of you guys have done, because we can't give it all away. So you can go ahead and use the support link down below to let me know. But let's go in and look at a couple of inspection post-processors. So I'm going to jump back to my favorite part, this lovely little Raspberry Pi enclosure. And we're going to go ahead and add some toolpaths to this. So first and foremost, let's go ahead. You know what? I've made this mistake before where I go in and I reuse some old stuff with a bunch of problems on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to reverse everything we've done here so far. And then we actually don't need that simplified primitive. And there was probably a reason we had, oh, we did. In the world of the timeline, I did a video on this, guys. You could actually duplicate your part and then turn it back into a primitive, like a square or a round stock. You guys can go check out that video at any time. But we're going to go into manufacture. In this case, I don't know why we have manufacture models, but we're going to get rid of that also just because we'd like it not to interfere with anything we are doing. And then let's create our new setup. So again, XYZ up. I'm not too concerned about the directions. As you can see, I'm taking a very long way around here so that, again, we don't have an issue or a problem. But from here, if we were to add into any type of an inspection, right? Let's say we are going to do, let's just do inspect surface with a couple of points. So there we go. We got some points for inspect surface. We got to go ahead and give this a probe. And then I'm going to post-process this, in this case, get that machine out of our way. There we go. Going to go ahead and post-process this, and as you can see, we actually have a Herco post in place, but this is not the correct Herco post. The Herco post that you're actually going to be using is called the Herco inspect post. Again, if we go to Herco, there's the Herco inspection post. Now, if you're also using the FANUC post, there's a lot of different post processors for inspection, but what I believe, unless they change something, is in probing and inspection, you actually have to define several things here. Now, there's the probe on command, there's the probe off command, but there's also things like the macro variable used. As you can see, it says macro variable used. This is where, as he was asking, is where do you plug it in, right? So again, this might be macro 500. This one might be stored under 501. And then maybe this one's under 502, right? Now, you do need to set your M calls for your probe on, probe off. Making some hot guesses here, guys. So let's just say it's 28 and 29, right? So M28 on, M29 off. Feel free to tell me in chat at any time that I'm completely wrong. Love to see it. Add comments down below if you guys are watching this at a later date, telling me I'm wrong. Love to see it, like I said. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and post this out now. And what you're going to see is when it writes, and this is a very longhand wrote code, but what it's looking for is to pull data in from those macro numbers. So what we're going to do is we're going to skim through here real quick. I might just do the old Control F. So we should see a 28 in here somewhere. We could probably type in M28, right? Oh, we're not getting M28. We're not getting M29, which would lead me to believe we probably forgot to put 28 on the front of it. But let's skim through here real quick. There's probably also a checkbox that I'm missing. But as you guys are going to see when we run through this code, there's a lot of this is macro based. So it's reading and writing from the controller, right? So again, is based on 501. As you can see, 500 plus 501 divide by 2. Again, you have 501, 502 here. That's when we plug those macros in so that it knows where and when to pull that information. Now you guys got me curious because where is a 29 at? So right there. So again, your guy, Fusion Phil over here at jitcadcam, can't get it right all the time. But as you can see, we could verify our G code because that is all I feel like I did all week was stare at G code and post processors. That if we were to go back and repost this out and type in M or possibly read the instructions, let's go for option and be an M code or a sub program call. So that's kind of nice that you could actually basically put in here whatever your machine needs. So instead of M29, let's go ahead and make this one P98. Actually, it's M98 E9020, right? So we're going to go ahead and leave that in there. Go ahead and get rid of the space on the front of both of those. Again, we repost that out. Looks like we're successful. And if we do a little Control F work here with M28, probe off command, M98 E9020 as we typed in, that is my subroutine call out as well to go catch that data to maybe turn on or turn off your probe. So guys, let me know. I see you guys being pretty quiet out there. However, I know my phone is vibrating like crazy. Makes me wonder who all out there is sending me anything and everything. Looks like somebody's already sending me beers. So give me a second. Deep Thinker, I just saw your message, and you're not wrong at all. But it looks like John's bought some beers. Let's go, guys. Celebrate John. John has bought me a couple of beers for the weekend. And it does look like we got somebody that's signing up for the membership portal. What else do we have going on here? Nothing so far. No tickets. Well, I highly appreciate the beers as always. And let's get back over. Where's my OBS? There we go. If you guys ever wonder why I'm always looking in a weird direction, it's because I need to get my life together and mount my actual chat and my OBS behind my webcam. So I'm looking at you all. But let's go ahead and jump back over. John, once again, thank you for the beers. So as you can see, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing, kind of like Deep Thinker has pointed out. We're going to jump back over. Let's post this out with a different post this time. Again, we're going to pull this up. And then with that, the good old Fusion library, FANUC inspection. Again, we're going to just copy that over. Yours truly is going to have to purge the system one of these days. We have probing and inspection again. Same kind of thing. Eccentricity on, eccentricity off. As I heard, we have probe on. Go ahead and plug this in for real, right? G65 E9832. And I do want to point out, since Deep Thinker is making all of these calls, you guys message that guy about all your other problems. Deep Thinker, what is my actual macros for my calibration X and Y as well? Why not put you completely under the bus this week, right? 9833, right? I guess don't have to hold the shift key when typing 9. There we go. 9833. Oh, it's is it P? It's P. Man, look at this, guys. You guys got me all frazzled over here. Probe off is 33. Probe on is 32. Be nice if those would have been ordered a little better, but beggars can't be choosers. We're going to give Deep Thinker a minute. Trace operation add-on to the professional package with Fusion. The trace operation. So the trace toolpath, Monty, is part of the standard license of Fusion 360. So again, Deep Thinker, we're gonna leave you out to dry. You gonna get that chat in here any minute? Let's see. In the meantime, I'm gonna show you guys this trick. We'll wait for him, but I'm gonna go ahead and copy both of these. So I'm using Control C because I'm on Windows. 501, 503, 504. Okay. So 501, X is 503, and then we have 504, right? So again, we've plugged in that pertinent information that we need. Again, we could go ahead and post-process. Now, one thing I am going to circle back on here in a second is the commissioning mode. So again, you have 501. There it is right there. You see them, you have 503, 504 all put together here in this posted G code. Now, running down a little bit further than that, we can go ahead and look for, there's our G65 on command, G65 off command, all set with inside of Fusion 360. Now, this actually leads me down the road of a couple of things. One, you guys have ever done the actual live inspections inside of Fusion? There's what's called a commissioning mode. And what basically commissioning mode means, it is as safe as physically possible as it's going to get the first time you run it, right? So as you can see is one, it's going to have a lot of things like pauses, M0s, if I can find them here. Anything and everything that's going to stop and freeze up the machine. Now, maybe this post doesn't have it. I'm going to go ahead and give this a check here real quick. But usually it does pause. Probe not calibrated. Where's the actual probe? I know on the Haas post, it'll tell you things. It'll stop. It'll open the doors. M0 or M00 is in there. I don't see any off the top. But once you run it the first time to make sure you don't tear up $3,000 worth of Renishaws, you can come back the next time you post out your program to run it. And you want to make sure you turn off that commissioning mode, right? So what that is going to do is the second time through, what you're probably going to notice is my code is going to be a wee bit shorter. But as you can see, again, we have quite a bit of code here, which maybe I didn't scroll down far enough. That was me on the first time. But again, it has all of your macros, all of your math built in here to go in, grab all of those points and run them so that you don't, again, your first time through in commissioning, make sure you don't smash your probe. And if you guys have ever seen it, there's these little rings people sell now that is probably the most genius thing ever. Best thing you could 3D print to put it on that stylus. So you hit the ring on your probe first, and then that will alarm your probe out. But yeah, as you can see, pretty straightforward by plugging those macros and other things in to get it all set up. Now, if you're somebody that's super fancy like myself, is you probably see how all of this stuff is turned blue because we've changed it, right? Well, if you guys wanted to, it wouldn't be a normal free support Friday if I didn't show you how easy it is to go into your post and add them as default values, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down here. I could do a little Control F to find it. However, it should show up here pretty quick. You know what? I think it's going to be further down. So commissioning mode, proper commissioning mode. Commissioning mode is enabled. Got to be in here somewhere. So here's your Renishaw cycles versus Autodesk. If you're on a machine that has like the Bloom cycles, those are also in here as well. Probe on command. There we go. We found one of them, right? So by default, it's set to 0. We could actually enter in And again, I'm going to use Windows V. I think 33 was on, right? And then down here we have probe off. 32 was off. I'm going to look over at my other screen again. And then again, Control S to save that. If I go back and we try to repost this again, what you'll notice is those values are going to be by default inside of the Fusion 360. So again, as if we reset to post default, as you can see, they are now naturally the default value that's inputted here. Now, something that I've seen a lot of, and I don't know what happens, but I've seen this happen so many times on the website, right? Is a lot of people out there have started to say, hey, my post processor is updated and I've lost everything I've had. Well, here's the thing, right? You guys just watched me edit this post, right? I've made changes to this post. Over here to the right, I now have a little person with a pencil saying this post has been edited. As far as I know, I've never had the problem where these have just automatically updated, right? Like, I've always had them where they have not updated because they're either in my cloud or local. But if I wanted to bring in the latest and greatest post at any time, by clicking on that little symbol there, actually, let me go back and do that again, we should be able to bring in the latest. It's only done it to me 47 times today. This is the latest person. Okay, yep, so that makes sense. Let's go ahead and dig through my library of things I need to throw out. Maybe we can find one here. Here is a good example. So again, green, of course, is the latest post, but edited. Now, the orange means that this is an older version of the post that we have edited, right? So when I click on that, it is telling me, do I want to ignore the update, or do I overwrite it by bringing in the latest, or do I save a copy of that, right? So if I hit overwrite, what you'll notice is my version number has now self-populated. It's now brought me up to the latest and greatest and basically dumped all of my edits up until this point. So again, I hope that helps you guys out a little bit. I have another tip here that we're going to throw in, but I need to go check out chat. We're up to 20 concurrent viewers. This is wild. You guys are partying it up in here. Either y'all got some long cycle times or my guys over in New Zealand and Australia are showing up like always. So for those of you that don't know, I am considered now world famous, as we've declared a few weeks ago. But let's see. Kristen L., what do you got? Simulate connection moves. I would like to disable it. It does crash my machine when simulating, but I can't find it anymore. So they may have hid where it's at. There's a couple of places, Kristen L., I'm going to show you. So one, when we go in, and what he's referring to is if I add back a machine now, this is where we have a lot of fun, because some cases I have a machine in here that the post isn't attached to. There we go. We have a UMC with a post, right? So what you're going to see, again, we get our parts on the platter. You should have a jig and fixture in there, but we're living dangerous today, right? So what's being referred to is if we edit our setup and we go in and edit our machine, if you cannot find the place to turn it off in the post menu, and I'll show you guys here in a second, but when we go in, we actually have the ability to go to post-processing. They've now moved it into the post-processing window here to toggle on and toggle off connecting moves. Now, for those of you possibly wondering what connecting moves are, the machine itself, when you simulate with the machine, it actually goes to the home position, retrieves itself from its home position, and all kinds of fun stuff like that. So what you're actually seeing is that purple line is now considered a connecting move. And we're going to get a big old crash here because nobody's machined this part out yet. But as you can see, that connecting move means where is the machine going to go to or travel to when things are going to happen here. So again, I'm going to go ahead and hit exit here because I'm going to throw a couple of tool paths on here and show you guys some neat things that you can do with that, right? So first, I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit my machine. Now, I don't know what the buzz about all this is. Everybody wants, you know, when you're using a large tool to move out of the way when you're actually doing tool changes and stuff. So what I'm going to show you is in your kinematics tree, you have a home position, and then usually you have machine travel limits, correct? So my home position is actually -29. On the UMC, that's all the way to the left. My Y position is -8, which means we could actually go all the way to -20, which be all the way in the back left corner of the machine. But we can use these home positions to control where we tool change at, right? So again, in the UMC, it's not ideal because there's a declared spot for a tool changer. But if you're working on something like a brother's machine or a machine where your actual tool changer is attached to the head, this is where we can go through and actually edit our post. And now what you're going to look for in here, I think the easiest way to find this is just to Control F and type in home. And we're going to hit enter a couple of times to get down to this area right here. So as you can see, it says retract and there's home XY. Now, as you can see, there's on indexing, on tool change, and on program end. Well, by default, these are set to false, which means on a tool change, again, in the Haas case, it's got to go up and go over to a tool changer. But if you were running a more traditional system with like an umbrella or things of that nature where it just needs to go up in Z and then the tool changer does its move, we can actually say, I want to move it, in this case, by highlighting this guy right here and plugging that in, is to go to that home position for tool change. Same with on indexing. So again, I just went ahead and pasted those two things in there, that by hitting Control F or Control S, S is in Sierra, I have now saved that. So let's go ahead and throw in a facing cycle here just to get another tool path on this part. And then let's just duplicate that and quickly modify into a tool orientation over here. And now we're doing several things on this part, right? So when we simulate with machine, again, I'm now going to force a home position on indexing as well as any time that we go in for a tool change, right? So here's my terrible probing cycle that you all will grief me for. And now normally we would come up and probably do a tool change at the top of Z. See, I'm actually going over to that home position. And if we turn on our machine, you'll notice, again, this is why I was telling you guys, the Haas has a declared tool change position, but on some machines that tool is actually mounted to the Z or it's only wherever the Z axis is. But we're actually not even going to that position technically. We're actually going to the defined position that I told it to. So again, here goes our facing cycle. And now when we come up and move, again, to the home position we've defined, it's now indexing and then coming back in. So what I would tell you for whoever was having the issues with the simulate linking moves and your machine crashing, odds are it's because your limits and your home positions are off, right? So let's get back over to the chat. Kristinel, I hope that helps you out. For most of you out there, the way they used to have that actual simulate linking moves, I believe it was hidden in here in the actual post dialog. But as I showed you, you need to go to your machine definition, and that is where you're going to find it, right? Again, this is the great thing, right? Like I've made videos on the way you could actually move it out of there, or like things where we've actually put the smoothing at the toolpath level. Again, Autodesk, if you're watching this video, please just put the machine smoothing settings at the toolpath level. I don't like, no offense to anybody out there. When you guys are starting out, you guys will love it because of stock to leave or tolerance. But when you really get in the deep thick of things, like you want to be able to control each toolpath individually without messing with those settings. So what else do we got here? Well, you are on probing. For WCS probing, is there a way to add an offset to a probe point? So Deep Thinker, I need a little more information. Are you trying to probe a location from a location, or are you trying to probe a location and then adjust? So Mads Camper, I see you're asking questions basically about the tolerancing of small angles and small radiuses. Yes, 100%. If we were to go in and actually, I'm going to have to switch back over to a turning part. When you post process on a lot of this stuff, there is additional settings that usually aren't needed by default. But some of the things you could be running into is down here in the actual minimum circular radiuses, as well as your built-in tolerances, that is changing those chord lengths. So again, here's another really good one, that the minimum chord length right now is 9,000. So if you decrease this, it will actually change those chord lengths and allow you to update. So you want to measure with the probe is actually what you're trying to do, correct, Deep Thinker? You want to go in and you want to measure what's left on material, or do you want to pre-cut something, know that there's material there, and then post-cut that? But is it possible to enable simulation moves additionally for machines that are missing that checkbox? So Milan, if your machine in particular, you may have to actually send me a message directly, but we can add in linking moves to a post processor, or commonly what I've always seen happen. Let me grab my other window here real quick so I can get to the post library. Is usually most people are just behind on post processors, right? You guys saw where I showed you how to bring in the latest and greatest. I'm just going to use the Doosan post as an example. But as you can see, if we go and look at the previous versions of this post, a long time ago, I was working with somebody. They were having all kinds of problems with TCPs, ABCs, pre-positioning, and then a little bit later, where is it here? They've added linking moves. I got to find it. Tool change sequence is now simulated correctly. So again, you now have tool changers. So what usually happens is your post has the ability, if you get the latest version. Now, if you've made changes over the years, and this is why we at jitcadcam have a tendency to never actually sell a custom post. We either do our post hourly, or we just usually roll it under our top tier support, which I got something for you guys here in a minute. But usually we just skim this list. We'll look at your version of your post and we'll say, hey, out of the 5 things you're looking to add right now, 4 of them were incorporated in the last year since you updated. The 5th one, I can make those changes pretty easy to, right? So again, remove the simulated connection moves property. Again, this is what somebody was asking, how do I turn it off because it's crashing my machine? I would actually tell you we don't need to turn it off. We need to fix your machine, right? But that's how you can go about it, and that's how you can see. So WCS shift during probing. So I have some ideas on it, Deep Thinker, but I would really have to understand the application and the use case, because I'm going to go ahead and shift gears on you guys. But again, from the post-processor standpoint, and not to tease this a little bit, where's my fancy Steam Deck here? We actually are doing a promo right now that we started today. We're calling it the National Cereal Day promo. So right now, if you guys want, you could go to our website. We are doing 30% off both of our support and our training, online training only, not in person. With that said, you guys can go over there. If you guys want to check out, buy anything on the website, it is currently 30% off when it comes to the Fusion support and training. So you could actually get those post-processor edits for next to nothing at the end of the day. And as I know, you guys consume this content like my 6-year-old eats, rice and ramen noodles. So we decided to do a promo on National Cereal Day. So let's go ahead and get back over here. But as you guys can see, we're back over, and the use cases I'm seeing here is what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop back into Fusion, and we're going to go look at this enclosure, right? So in a normal use case, the way I usually see this working is I'm going to have to do a couple preparatory things for you guys here. We're going to go ahead and throw a 1/2-inch end mill around this part. Again, we're just cutting the outside profile, right? Now, I do need something like wear turned on. We're going to go ahead and turn on wear. And then I'm going to come in with my probe, and I am going to do a probe geometry, right? So what this allows me to do is to actually pick up these surfaces and measure. Again, I can now measure a size, a position. Again, size-wise, I want this to be plus or minus 5. Maybe I want to go over and I want to automatically update tool wear, right? So we're going to update tool wear for tool 2. I am going to go ahead and only update it once we hit 2 thou. And let's make about let's go 80% correction. What does this all mean, right? Everybody is always curious. 1, don't make a change until we get to this number. And upon exceeding this number, only correct by 80%. So let's say we were at 3 thou. Is it going to correct 3 thou? No, it's going to correct at like 2.6, right? So we don't ever want to do 100% correction because you could overshoot kind of what you're going on. Again, weird things happen, chips get in the way. We've seen it all, right? But as you can see, I can use probe geometry to recognize those features in that area on my part. Now, when I post this, go ahead and get this post processed. Good thing we have this lovely Haas post that I know usually doesn't cause me problems. But as you're going to see right here is it's telling it update tool 2 anytime it's greater than 2 thou. And now what we're really looking for, so you guys can see, is where is my X and my Y? I got to find it here real quick. Z height, measure that surface. maybe my brain is not working as well as I thought today. So anyways, here is our Z height. Here's our X, 2 inches, and Y, 3 inches, right? So this was cut to 0, and we're measuring the exact size of the part. The neat thing is if we went in and we actually said there was stock to leave here, and we go ahead and throw on 20, that's 40 total for you guys that are wondering. We got 20 on this wall and 20 on our far wall. We have to regenerate our probing cycle because it cannot define those properties for probing. Again, looking at the cycle that was used, we repost this out. And now you guys can see is when we go in, well, one, yours truly posted out the contour too. So one, there's the D value everybody wants for where. But if we scroll down, we're now measuring at 2.04 and 3.04. So by using probe geometry to measure and cut a surface, that stock to leave, as you can see, is going to come into effect. Now, the question really was, is if I was probing something that had 20 thou material on it still, when I do a probe WCS probing cycle, as you guys will see, there's an option to pick a model or a stock, right? So one thing I could do is if I had my stock properly modeled, I can probe the stock surface, right? Now, this is where we can have some fun with this again. So if I go into design and I create a surface, and we're just going to do an offset. And what we're not going to do is we're not going to chain this thing because I don't need all of it, right? I just need a fake piece to probe on. Is again, we go back to manufacture and we look at our probe WCS, right? So again, we can actually probe that fake surface I've created. If this is a case where you've already cut it, it's down to 20, I now want to pick up 20, there's ways to compensate around it. Now, I believe the real question is around, is there a way just to enter a 20 thou shift, right? There's really not. We could actually drive this from 2 separate WCSs, meaning we always return back to the same one before the next part versus kind of chasing a work offset all around. But at the end of the day, you can't simply just say, hey, I need to put 20 in here. I could add a surface at 20. I could have a stock model at 20. Lots of things going on that I could do at the end of the day. So give me a sec here, guys. I need a drink. I'm up here rambling like crazy. I see my phone going off, which means probably you're sending me all kinds of questions and things. So let's go ahead and verify a few things. Give me one sec. I'm going to get blown out and hoarse the rest of the day. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll up. I see a lot more questions coming in. Deep Thinker, you let me know if that actually is going to help you at all with what you're doing. When am I going to make a buy me a beer available for the international guys? I mean, I don't want to be the one to say it in a bad way, but if it's not Busch Light or Yingling, I don't want to drink it. Okay, I drank the Fosters. It wasn't terrible, but I would prefer not. No, I'm just kidding. So one of these days, I will get my act together when I'm not out here editing posts and doing support tickets for all of you to get that working. Now, for what I know, Harm, you could actually do a super chat inside of this actual YouTube live. And I promise you, I will drink those beers the same as the beers that you buy directly, right? So programming, okay, yep. So Deep Thinker, I kind of should have probably looked at chat a little sooner. But as you can see, is he's cutting a flame cut part. So what he's technically needs to do is he needs to have a solid of the flame cut part, and that would be his starting stock, which he could WCS probe on that actual flame cut stock, right? And then he would have his part that he's working with. So Mads, we may have to take a look at that a little bit later as it's not working. Hey, I understand, man. I feel like that all the time. Maybe I'm not as smart as I think I am. Yeah, I would tell you, honestly, if the quickest way would be is, as you saw, I did that offset face. But again, there's a lot of things you could do in the world of Fusion if you're dealing with flame cut parts. I would also recommend, Deep Thinker already knows this, of course. If you guys ever deal with a flame cut part, don't climb mill. You want a conventional mill, which is actually a pretty good thing I should show you guys how to do, right? So again, what we're going to do is we're going to get that surface out of the way here. But when you're milling a flame cut part, where the actual torch was cutting on that part is actually hardened. So when your end mill is climb cutting, it's actually slamming into the hardest piece of material. Now, this was a question I saw just last week, is we have sideways compensation left or right. So by flipping from one to the other, what you're going to notice is we've actually changed climb milling versus conventional milling. So if I simulate this real quick, give it a sec here. What you're going to notice is when this tool comes in, a lot of you might have a little bit of a panic attack. We got to get all the way over here from the connecting moves. But as you're seeing, is it is now conventionally milling. And the reason for that is because you're starting your cut and you're allowing your tool to cut into the softer material and load up to the harder material. So again, pro machinist tip. Some of you may not believe this, but I don't think I've ever actually ran a machine in my life. No, that is a joke. I actually run plenty of machines. So as you can see, I will have to try the offset face. Again, Deep Thinker, great way to go about it. Super chat does not work today. What do you mean it does not work? What in the world? Can anybody else verify that? How do I set up super chat? Maybe that's a better question. Let's do this. You know what? I am going to put my big old beautiful face up here. And we are going to go look at this a different way to see why there is no super chats. Oh, you know what? I know why it's not working. Y'all sent me too many beers on super chat, and they finally wanted me to go in and set up all my account stuff. Nope. Should be on now. On here. I think that's how you turn them on. Or they turn them back off. They're all turning. Oh, now enabled. All right. I don't know. Can you refresh the page and let me know if it works? We'll give him a minute. Bogdan, sorry no beers for you from Europe today. That's all right. Monty hooked me up hard. He was like, here's a whole case of beer. Oh. Flame Cut 4140 can be spindle breaking hard. Yes, it can. 100%. It's honestly, it's a pretty good thing. You know, it's one of those things that you learn the hard way, that when you get on these different machines and it's like, hey, I'm running aluminum and I can run, 15,000 RPMs because I don't need any torque. And then you go talk to somebody on one of the old Haas machines with a manual gearbox. And then you're like, oh, torque for days. That's what those machines were built for, is those weird exotic hard metals, right? Awesome. Any other questions out there? Go ahead and let me know if you guys have any questions. Look at that. Bogdan in. There we go. See, Bogdan hit us with some beers again. Love to see it. Love to see it. You guys are not pressured in any way to buy beers. As you guys know, all the time we tell you, the likes, the subscribes alone, the sharing of the content, getting it out to other people is always beneficial to us here at jitcadcam. But if you do want to come here live, throw some questions at me, and get instant answers for the most part, as much as I can, you are more than welcome to buy me a beer. You're also, if you're in North America, guys, you could actually buy your Autodesk software directly through us at jitcadcam. And nonetheless, we offer support and training. As I hit you guys with already, we're doing the National Cereal Day. Eat up all the training you can. 30% off now on the website. Oh, let's get back over here. That button, that's a good button. Any other questions outside of that? I know we're starting to get to the halfway point, are we not? 53 minutes in, and it took a 5-minute intro. We got 10 minutes to the halfway point. I'm drinking these delicious Celsiuses. How many of you guys out there are following us on Facebook? It's been nothing but updates and content. I mean, we broke 2,000 subscribers this week. That's wild. That is something I never expected to happen, right? We also had some other crazy stuff happen. I don't know how much you guys have been watching. We hired our very first employee. I don't know. Jordan, are you out there in the chat today? Maybe he's beeping quiet. You guys didn't see it. We have our brand new employee here at jitcadcam. Jordan comes to us. He is an account executive. Nonetheless, he is managing a ton of accounts. So he is a sales rep. So I got to warn you guys. Fusion Phil over here has decided to take the sales hat off for a little bit and pass it on to none other than Jordan, of course. As you guys can see, finally got to meet this guy in person. Nonetheless, He is a native from North Dakota, where I also live. He's over in Fargo, but he does look much taller in this photo. If any of you guys know me, I'm only 5'8". This guy's coming in at like 6'1". That being said, he also has a killer home gym, aka the House of Pain, and he, like myself, thoroughly enjoys Celsiuses. So I think what we're gonna do this week is I think I'm gonna donate all of these beers to Jordan's Celsius Energy Drink Fund so that he can drink away as much as he can. Obviously not the ones that Monty bought and I've already spent. But let's get back over here. Jordan is world famous now too. That is true. Is he in chat? Maybe I'm gonna go harass him right now. Is he watching this video? I'm gonna tell him you guys are all like hyping him up and everything. And let's see here. Oh, he's messaging me now, so I think he knows. He's listening. He's out there. Yeah, he's staying quiet. He's embarrassed. If you guys have ever worked with Jordan in the past, by any means, he is great at what he does. He is a stellar guy, nonetheless. If you don't have anything, I have a ball mill groove to cut. I need to ramp down to reach my final depth, and I could not figure out how to do that in Fusion. So it is ball mill, like, easy enough. So is it the slot that you're cutting the exact same size diameter as the ball? Deep thinker? Uh-oh. Monty just sent me an email. Let's go ahead and get this pulled up in the meantime while you get those in. Alrighty. So what we're going to do is, Monty, I'm going to get your file right now. Actually, I'm going to hold off on that. Monty, do you want me to put your file out here? I'll give you a sec to answer. In the meantime, let's go ahead and draw up a part with a lovely groove. Now, this is actually a really good subject that I've been meaning to make content on because I am a big fan of, have you guys ever seen Pearson work holding? I feel like you guys have, right? So I'm going to pull them up. Shout out to these guys. They make some awesome stuff. You guys aren't going to see my screen yet because I didn't move it over there. Calm down. But they make this vacuum system. If you're going to do a lot of flat plate work and stuff like that, absolutely wonders. But when you cut your groove, that was a Lexan sheet in case you guys were wondering. When you guys go in and you actually cut the grooves for the O-rings and the seals and everything to be able to utilize them, it's the same kind of approach here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pop back over into my Fusion, and we're going to do a little drawing today. So to make things simple, we're going to go ahead and do a rectangle. That's going to be off center. And then we're going to throw in another lovely rectangle in here because it doesn't have to be the fanciest of fancy, right? So actually, we're going to add dimensions. We're going to make it fancy. It's going to happen today. We have no choice. And you know what? Now I'm realizing it's going to be a bad day because that rectangle got stuck on straight with the other rectangle. There we go. Now we could add our dimensions. So you got to be careful with those constraints. Let's say we're going to do a 1/4 inch groove. That's going to go all the way around, right? 0.25, 0.25. And then outside isn't really going to matter. So we're going to just kind of bring that in just a little bit and extrude out what we need. Again, let's get that sketch turned back on. If you guys are saying anything in chat, I will get to that here in a second. But let's go 250 deep. Now, what you're going to have to tell me, Deep Thinker, is do you have single line groove, not a loop? That's fine. That won't matter either way. But are you... Totally lost my train of thought since you guys were talking. I was going to ask... What was it? What was I going to ask? Good question. Single line groove, not a loop. All right, so I think I got it. My brain is taking a minute today. It's been a long week. Yeah, single line groove, not a... I mean, the loop shouldn't matter, right? So if I was to do it like you're saying... Something like this, right? And then 1/4 inch wide. I guess it's a groove. Or are you talking a lathe part? Like this? Keep thinking, you're gonna have to let me know. I'm gonna take another drink of my energy drink. Oh, by the way, we missed somebody. Totally forgot about that. Let me scroll up here. Arm, thank you very much as well. I appreciate, obviously, yours truly totally forgot that Super Chats was turned off for some reason. Round/ball profile, but yes. Okay, so it's just a straight, yeah. So what I'm doing here, I just haven't finished it yet. So again, what I was going to do is I was going to throw my fillets at this thing. And what I'm realizing now is all of this needs to be 1/4 inch. So it's going to be an 1/8 inch down here. So something like that, right? That's kind of what you have going on. Maybe that looks a little more appealing to what you're trying to do. Give you a few more seconds here. Double check anywhere and everywhere since there's a million things going on. Actually, get Monty's file in the meantime. Let me go ahead and pop over to that screen. All right. Got a message that my post is working great. So we're going to go ahead and close out that ticket for that lucky guy. Get Monty's file starting up here. Take a second. Add up and continue in the background. Monty, are you asking how to model fish scales on that? I'm going to go ahead and ask that question before I get my chat pulled back up. So, as you can see here, oh, there we go. Awesome. We're going to come back to this in a second. I actually got way more excited now that I see this sketch here. Initially, when I opened his file, so you guys can see this, this is what I saw, and his question is about fish scales, and I'm partially like, oh no, he wants us to model fish scales, right? All right, we'll come back to this. So, Deep Thinker wants to actually run a tool basically same width as the slot along the slot. As you can see, we've now modeled a 1/4 inch slot. It's got an 1/8 inch at the bottom. Technically, I should have probably only extruded this guy down, minus 0.125, right? Oh, that is not a minus. That should be a positive number. There we go. And of course, we broke a couple of our corners here. Or it does not want to do all of those corners. What we got going on here? Go back. We're going to go ahead and undo this. This is the fun of always having to do stuff for people. So what we're going to do is we're going to do our manufacturer as always, set up our setup. Again, what I'm going to do is Z up, X whatever direction he is going to use. But if I had to cut something like a slot like this, there's a lot of ways to define your tool and how you could do it. The easiest way, in my opinion right now, because it is modeled, and I'll show you guys the Pearson work holding way with a sketch here in a minute. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do my 2D contour, and my geometry, I'm going to pick one of my straight lines. Now, I'm holding the Alt key when I do this so that I only pick one segment, right? Now, what that has just done is given me the line to follow end to end on my part, right? Now, from that, I need to set my Z height. So again, as I could either do a, based on that edge minus a distance, we could say minus 250 in this case. Or I could, of course, say selection and maybe pick like this little node down here in the bottom. Let me get this in the center of my screen. You guys are probably staring at your keyboard trying to figure out what I'm doing. So I could have also done a selection right here at this T intersection. That would have also given me my Z depth, right? So let's get a tool in here. And what I always like to do off the start is make sure that we can get a tool path on our part before we really start getting into the nitty-gritties of how we're going to work our way down in there, right? So again, we hit OK. And as you can see, we're going in. Now, we still do have lead in and lead outs turned on, as you can see. So it's not going to be the best of times. And I'm going to turn my stock on because you guys probably want to see what these collisions are I'm talking about, right? So let's make some changes now. His first request is he wants to ramp down, But what I'm actually going to evaluate is the lead in, lead out problem. Now, if I go to my linking tab, and this is very important, a little hard to see here. Let's get our model out of the way. Green, red, and yellow all fall under your linking tab at the end of the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off my lead in and I'm going to turn off my lead out, and I'm going to hit OK. Now, as you can see, in the world of creating that slot, let's get my model turned back on, is we're now plunging in that corner, running down our part, and then retracting back out, right? So I've now got my blue line, my red lines, and my yellow lines all kind of doing what I needed to do in order to cut that in one shot. His next request was, let's ramp into it. Again, that's a lead-in move. So if we go back over to our linking tab, we can turn on ramp. Now, he can set this to whatever his maximum angle is recommended to his tool, as well, what is the maximum step down allowed. Now, I want to show this to you guys because I think a lot of people miss out on this. But if we say 3/4, but yet 2 degrees, it's going to go to whichever one it hits first, right? So it's not going to go 3/4, it's going to hit 2 degrees. Or if 3/4 is less than 2 degrees, it's going to use one or the other in this scenario. We're going to go ahead and leave it alone. And as you can see, that is a pretty steep step down into that part. But as you can see, we're now ramping from one end all the way across our part, and then we're zigzagging back down to get to that final depth. So Deep Thinker, you let me know if this is in the direction of what you're thinking or what you need to do. But we can now go in and we can make a few more changes to this, right? So again, if we wanted to decrease the angle or if we want to decrease the maximum roughing step down, as you can see, by decreasing the maximum step down, we're now making more passes back and forth, right? So again, simple enough. He wants to cut a groove, same width as the tool. I assume it's something like some weird keyway or grease groove. But as you can see, we're ramping down into our part in a zigzag fashion, and then we're cutting one final pass at the total depth. Now, you could step this up a little bit. You could add a few more features to this thing, right? Again, we could do things like, hey, I would like to make several depths of cut, which means ramp down to a depth and then cut it and then ramp down more, right? So again, we could turn on multiple depths. We could set it to, say, 100 thou step downs. And now basically every time it gets down 100 thou, again, a little tricky to see here. So let's clean this up for you guys. Let's go ahead and do the good old fashioned section analysis. This is where we get into trouble because old Fusion Phil failed to draw that part proficiently in the first place. But again, as you can see, there's a nether blue line forming here, and then another one down below, and then there's actually going to be a final one at the total depth, right? Total depth here is 250. Obviously, 100 thou max step down, we're going to make 3 passes. So it's going to be 100, 100, last pass is 50. But again, we've had multiple depths. We're ramping to each one of those multiple depths. That should be able to take care of what Deep Thinker is asking at the end of the day. Now, Monty's case, Monty, I would like to know, what do you want with the fish scales? This is going to be interesting. So, depending on the feature that you're trying to cut, if there's no variance in Z, you don't really need to use trace. Now, trace is my go-to when we kind of talk about more of that Pearson work holding thing. So if you were to hold a part like this based on a actual jig plate under it, so let's say, I'm going to do this kind of quick for you guys. So anybody that's had to do vacuum holding knows the key to the vacuum holding, and what I made here is just the base plate. Let's say you have a scrap piece of plate laying around, right? So the key element is going to be is I need to create air chambers and a gasket groove underneath this part so it stays in place, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a new sketch on that surface. And then what I'm going to do is we're going to do a project. We're just going to project the bottom edges. Now, I could have picked the bottom surface, guys. I'm going to leave the model on temporary just to make this a little bit easier. And now we can get it out of our way, right? So basically, my part is going to sit here in this blue window. So now I know I need to add, in this case, again, with the Pearson system, it's a multi-plate design. Underneath this has all your chambers to pull a vacuum. The first couple of things I like to personally do is I basically draw some rectangles. And again, I know how much you guys laugh about this. When you see my fancy drawings of rectangles, I would dimension and constrain these. Let's get that other body off. I think you guys can see those rectangles better. This allows me to go in and create, a hole to push through that plate, as well as where I can cut all of my O-ring grooves. Again, this is just stuff that I've done over the years that's worked pretty good. That outer loop that I have going is going to be my gasket groove. So this is the only time you guys will ever see me do this. But I would fillet this rectangle as a sketch. And again, we're going to make those, like 1/2-inch radiuses. And now lastly, I need basically the air chambers to all tie together. So I'm going to add another layer to this. Throw another rectangle in here. And then what you guys will see is basically wherever I need air to go across these, that's basically why I'm dropping a few more lines. And then let's give this actually a couple more circles for hold down, right? So what's going to happen now is we're going to take all those little circles that I drew, whatever ones are going to go through the plate, I would, of course, take them all the way through the plate. But I'm going to drop those down about 100. And now what that has allowed me to do is basically create large areas of vacuum, right? So the next thing is I need one of these to go through the plate. I'm just going to delete it with my delete key on my keyboard. Now, I'm not going to model up all of these grooves and these rings and these seals because as you've already kind of heard from Deep Thinker when manufacturing something here, we're going to go ahead and get that analyze out of the way. But let's do our setup. Here's my plate that we want to manufacture, right? Oh, let's go ahead and go back. Pick size box. We only want... That sketch is going to get in the way. There we go. So there's my body. Fixed size box for stock. Again, we do our Z-axis up. And now when we want to machine those actual grooves, and again, this is a special cutter that you get from these guys. The nice thing is I could do this all with a trace. This is where I like trace more than I like contour, because you would define your end mill as they would say such. I am just going to pull in like a small 1/8-inch end mill. But when I want to cut these actual grooves, that is what I'm defining to select to cut, right? So as you can see me do here, I'm picking all of those sketch lines that we're going to cut to make our air chambers and link everything together so it pulls a vacuum. And the reason why I like trace for this is because it's by default center of my tool, right? So now I didn't drop it down in Z height yet, so we could still do that. But I wanted to show you that it is making a logical decision on where to start and where it stops. But I can easily go in and drop it down by whatever that height is in my actual offset. So again, axial offset. Let's say Pearson is calling for a 0.1 Z height. And now I've gone through, again, you're going to see the blue line at negative 0.1, of course. But if we were to simulate this or turn on my stock, I guess, and get my model out of the way, that would be my actual O-ring groove around the outside, as well as all of my chambers for pulling a vacuum when using that Pearson system and putting my gaskets in. Little quicker way to do it. Again, the trace method works good if you have a sketch to drive it off of. So there's nothing wrong with how Deep Thinker was thinking. As we go back to that other part, had he had a sketched line on the center of the slot, he could have very easily done it with trace and then did an axial offset to push it down in the part, right? Awesome. Monty, let's see what we got. I'm trying to project the scales just barely outside the surface. Now you're getting me worried. So are you trying to draw the scales on this part, or are you trying to machine them? Because this is going to get into the world of modeling to another level. I'll give you a second here. I also have a pretty good one that I'm going to put out here in a minute. I don't know. Ty, are you in here? I got to ask. Ty from Learn It had a pretty good thing he was doing earlier. If you guys haven't checked out his video content, Ty makes tons of design and cam videos on Autodesk Fusion nonetheless, and he had a pretty good one. Yeah, so you're trying to actually surface model scales onto this actual fishing lure so that you can make a mold off of it. Now, it is going to be relatively tricky because the real problem is, oh, sent me an email with a picture. Let me get back over there. I think I have an idea in my head of what it's going to look like. Yeah. So he wants to do a cross-hatched kind of look on something. And the thing is being able to machine that crosshatch inside of Fusion is one thing. Now to actually go out and try to model it is going to be a whole nother, because he is fighting several different angles and profiles here. Now, a couple of ways I could think to do this off the top of my head, you guys go ahead and tell me if I'm right or wrong on this, is he needs to create the texture on this actual skin here. So I may actually do something right off the start, which would be is possibly a split body or even a split face. So if I was to split this face using basically some of these sketch lines, right? I don't know how many I'm going to be able to get away with in one shot. So it looks like I'm only going to be able to do one at a time, which will get a little annoying quick, right? And now we have this guy. Again, splitting tool. Let's just say we go here. And let's repeat that one more time. Will emboss work? I don't think so, because it's not really a round profile. And I think he wants it to be clocked at a very good position here. So I'm going to try something first. Now, this was a trick. You guys have ever seen some content from a guy named Wayne. He actually, me and him worked at Autodesk a long time ago together. He's still there nonetheless. But he showed me some things when you start to split faces. You actually have some neat things you could do with that. And with the press pull tool, if I was to add to this 5,000, yep, see, here's the problem is it's automatically trying to take everything with it. So what we need to do is we need to say modify existing face. Yep, see, it's not going to give it to us. Yeah, I don't know if it's going to work on this profile or not, because it's trying to take everything with it. So that split face quite didn't work as well as I thought it would. Let's undo that here real quick. In the meantime, anybody else out there has any questions, feel free to chime in and let me know. But, oh man, this is a good one to try to model texture on a part, right? This is where all those advanced systems come in. How about with an offset plane? So there's not really an offset plane that's going to work. Again, the problem is in order to make those V grooves at the end of the day, but your V groove needs to follow this profile, right? So I think maybe, I could be mistaken again. So let's say we do a brand new sketch here. And if we did a project, so now there is project to surface. On this surface, I would like to possibly project. Yep, see, this is going to be the problem. So it's not going to project out there. I don't think so. I think it's still going to have a problem with it. Now, what if we were to, and it might be because we're projecting outside in. So what if we take this sketch, let's just move it outwards a little bit. And then let's try that project one more time. Again, we're going to go in and say project. Here is base curves to project. There we go. So we're starting to get something here, but the problem is still going to be the same. As you could see, is we are getting a little bit more of what we want. And pro tip here, if you guys didn't know, is if we were to go over here and pick the whole sketch, I don't know if it's going to take it. Yeah, see, it's not going to take the whole sketch in one shot. And it looks like we can grab all of this, but as you can see, it's still not giving you, because again, as it's trying to project it to a center line. Now we could project across a vector, of course. That has extended us out a little bit. Now I'm curious, can we add additional faces? We can. So I don't know if we're going to luck out with this. So we are projecting that sketch onto our part, which is kind of wild at the end of the day. We're going to see what we're going to get. So you have a bunch of projected lines. The problem is going to be now is setting up some way to extrude a profile using those lines, right? So this is where trying to cut your body or trying to cut those profiles in there, that's what I'm trying to figure out. If any of you guys have any ideas, I'm going to open this back up to you. Go ahead and grab another drink of my lovely energy drink here. I was thinking maybe pipe. Well, pipe might actually do it. The other one I was thinking, coil's not because it's going to be round, but if we do pipe, you do triangle. The problem is which way is the triangle going to face, right? That's the only problem as I'm seeing is, as you can see, it's in which direction or shape is it trying to see how it's going around the profile, but what is it trying to point to, right? That's always the question. Technically, pipe does start to do something. I don't know how crazy he's trying to get with this, right? But if you were to go through and do pipe, and you do more than one pipe at one time, you can't. So that's going to be painful. But the thing is it's not really tangent to the face, which is crazy, right? This is where you almost need, I have an idea. Not always a good idea, but it's an idea. Because if we took this profile that he has, and let's say we do a split body now, right? I'll split the actual fish body, and this actually, we should have probably did this off the start, right? Much easier to do something that's ambidextrous left and right if you only do one half of it. So now we have two bodies here. We're going to go ahead and get that first body out of the way. I'm actually going to unproject all of this because now what I want to do is we're going to do a project this time round on only half of a part. Again, we could go in, we could do brand new sketch. Technically, the face doesn't matter because we are doing a project to surface. And we need to project onto all of these surfaces here. And what we want to use for projecting is all of these. And again, we're going to give it a direction. So there's our lines. Getting somewhere. If only you guys were here at my house, you could smell the smoke in my brain. So let's get that first sketch out of the way. We now have our new sketch to work with. Again, we're going to go ahead and edit that sketch because what I'm thinking we may or may not be able to get away with, right, is basically at this point drawing a triangle profile, right? Now, I'm not going to fully lock this in, but I think what is going to happen is if we now go back and do something like a sweep. You guys figuring out where this is going here? And here's our path. I think that is as dangerous as it's going to get, but somehow also work. Now, if we had a few more, what do you think? I'm going to pause here. I'm going to pause here. Is it a terrible workflow? Is it a good workflow? What do you guys think? Is this going to work? Looks weird on the bottom. Yeah, so that's going to be the fun of it is because that profile again, as you can see, it's sweeping and it's not holding tangent. But I think if we do something like, again, this is where we're going to get into the difficulties of what it can and cannot do at this level. Keep in mind, we could have split it the other way too and then did one up and one down. I think that would eliminate some of it. But what it's not allowing me to do is the fact that if we went to parallel, it's not going to do a parallel stacking across that curve because it's wrapping around the part, right? You could always give it a little twist and see what happens. Maybe not. Definitely not. Oh, taper versus twist. That's a little better. So if we start to give it some, there we go. 20, maybe about 23 degrees. So again, what we've got now is that triangle lining up as it twisted around. I like it if my computer can handle it. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm subjecting my computer to too much at the moment. But there's that first one. The bad news is we kind of got to do this quite a bit, but where's my part at? There we go. Let's add a few more here. Granted, we could reuse that triangle the other way, I think. And again, so you guys know, in this case, Monty's part that he has for this fishing lure is actually, as long as there's kind of a texture on it, it doesn't need to be absolutely perfect, right, Monty? It's an aesthetic thing more than it is an actual, like, must-have thing. Now, I'm going to be a little adventurous. Now, I don't think we're going to be able to do multiple in one shot. So we're going to have to go back and rinse and repeat the system, right? So again, we're going to do that sweep based on our sketch. Grab this one and this one. And then this time, we're actually going to take this guy out the front there. And now I think we could start the ball rolling of just rinse and repeat here quite a few times. Boom, that guy that way. Again, we're going to need a little bit of twist in it, right? So we're actually going to go negative twist, I think, on this one. Repeat. Back the other way. Again, we give it about 23-ish degrees of twist. And I think we're starting to get somewhere a little bit. What do you think, Monty? Is this looking good? So it looks like we're getting somewhere, but I think you're right, Monty. The way you're talking and the way you're thinking is now if we wanted to, outside of this, again, is we would have to add a few more. So let me get another one in here real quick. Again, we want that to go this way. I think we were at 23 positive, or was it negative? I don't ever remember. Looks like negative, right? Boom. And now we're getting that kind of cross-hatched profile that he is looking for. But 100%, at this point, if you were to create your mold cavity, this would be imprinted into your mold cavity as well. So again, this texture that we have here. Now that does kind of makes me think. Because for a lot of you guys, I don't think you guys have the plastic. It's part of the design extension. There is what's called web, but I don't think it allows you. I think it's just rectangular, if that makes sense. It's not, you can't do it like spider webbed or like at like steep angles, right? I think it's 90-degree webbing. But that, I mean, honestly, that might actually lead to another. Trying to remember where it's at. We're gonna live dangerous today, because they have started to allow you to model your infill and things of that nature as well. I'm just trying to remember. It's one of those things that we could spend a lot of time on this. So guys, if anybody out there has any questions at any time, feel free to jump into chat. Go ahead and ask away as we mess around with Monty's fishing lures some more. You have one more pro tip I'm going to show you guys. It's actually the solution that Ty at Learn It was looking for earlier today. He made a great video on doing some decorative router type stuff. Yeah, so if we go plastic, let's go ahead and use the web key. Got to figure out a profile first. So I've never used this tool. You guys are going to see this new. Select an open sketch profile. Create a web. Apparently that is not a open sketched profile. How does this tool work? You guys have any idea? You know what? This is going to be interesting. I think I know how this tool works. We're going to learn today. Not 1 inch. Whoa. We have our profile. Symmetrical from bottom. Maybe we have to draw it at the bottom. Draft angle 0. There it is. There it is. We're going to figure it out. Auntie, we might be in business here, man. I've got some terrible ideas that are barking in my head. However, yeah, this is going to be based off body. As you can see, we could use the web tool. However, this is part of the extension. And what I would think is if you wanted to, you could obviously add some draft angle to these too. Oh, too much. Let's go ahead and flip direction. Let's go ahead and plug this in as a negative. Autodesk, great job on making the software actually quite simple for even me to use. So as you can see, we're now drafting and adding angle. So again, based on that texture and that profile that he's trying to do, is if we were to open up the thickness and then add even more draft, as you can see, you could basically get a spiked kind of pattern. Now, I don't know how well this is going to project against that surface that you have. That's going to be the one that I'm curious about. So if we go back to the fish scale side of things, get that part turned on. Profile. Yeah, see, this is where it's going to be. It doesn't want to define that as the profile, right? I don't know if it's because nothing is underlying it or if it's the sketch. Try to do some things here. When in doubt, put a big old rectangle around everything, right? There we go. Or it's looking for an inside cavity area, if that makes sense. Yep, it doesn't like that. So again, just some wheels a turning that still aren't going to be quite there. I do know that when it comes to textures inside of Autodesk software, this is why people tend to use a little different software for mesh making. You see the smoke? Yeah, trust me. Smoke detector, I had to disconnect it inside this room, but cool. Any other questions for you guys? Once again, good old-fashioned free support Friday. Did any of you guys catch any of that other content that we put out this week on Feature Cam? Let me know. Be curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are or some of the cool stuff we did. Oh, that's right. I have that one last thing on my agenda to show you guys. Any questions before I show you my last and final trick of the day? No problem, Monty. Glad to see how much I can try to help. You know, I'm not a designer, as most people don't know. Let's go ahead and get some of this stuff closed out here. Actually won't need this guy either. So again, this is one that I think a lot of people have kind of overlooked. And now this is up to you guys whether or not you'll have to let me know. Is when you have a part, and let's say, for example, just a couple of features, right? I'm going to extrude this. But let's say, for example, I want to only do certain things to the sections inside of this part when I do CAM work. So when I go over to manufacture, have my setup created. Let's say, for example, I want to actually, let's chamfer these edges, right? So I'm going to go in and we have 2D chamfer, which is aimed at a non-bottle chamfer. But when it comes to selecting all these edges, how many of you guys have that mentality of picking the edges? Let me know. Because I know a lot of us do this, right? We're in that old habit of picking all the edges on a part. But the great thing is instead of picking all those edges, because of the new selection tools that have been around for a while, you could actually do what's called a face contour, right? And now you could define inner loops only. But as you can see here, is it's automatically selecting those areas for me based on the face selection and saying inside or outside. So if I wanted to do a certain chamfer on the inside of this part, again, we could say, you know, like, let's say 10 on the inside, right? You need to give this a tool, so let's go back here for a minute. Good old trusty spot drill, where you at? There she is. As you can see, we're going to do a 10th out chamfer on the inside profiles there. And then again, is I could go back and I could say, hey, this time we're going to do 2D chamfer, face contour, outside profiles, right? And then I want to put a 50th out chamfer. So great thing about that face profile selection, inside versus outside, or if you're doing engraving work, again, that was the big thing with Learn It's video this week, was they were looking at ways to use engrave to make very nice decorative stuff. But when he went through, he had like 100, it wasn't 100, I'm exaggerating. It was like 20 areas he was manually picking. And the great thing is again, is if we just say face plus inner only, as you can see, this gives you nice mitered corners and such. But how much faster your selection process is by using face contour, right? Awesome. Any other questions? 18 plus people out there. We're at 105 views total. The record is 150, as well as 25 people in here at any time. Do you guys have any questions at this time? Anything in particular you want to see? I'm opening it up to anybody and everybody at this time. I'm going to go ahead and check on something on my other screen here real quick. And don't see anything there. No tickets in. Y'all been quiet this week. You just one of them weeks? I don't want to have to cut this thing early, but if we don't have anybody speaking up, just might have to. Here, I should probably go back and check all the tickets out here real quick. Yep, nobody sent anything to the support channel. Going once, going twice. Uh-oh. Jester's here. Jester's got to have something. Jester, you got anything you want to see live this week? Connection moves. We were talking about that earlier. What is the issues you're having? Give you a second or two to put it in chat. Maybe we could figure it out. Go ahead and make sure nobody's messaging me on Facebook. As they are call in on section. Adaptive contour around a part without clearing excess stock. I would be curious to see a little more of the example that you're working with there. Unless you're talking about something like machining off the hat of a part or something of that nature. Sure thing. Presumably what you're referring to, Jester, is something inside of the post-processor itself. Now, keep in mind, everything in the simulation of connection moves is usually being driven by the home position of the machine or the tool change position of the machine. And if you want, you could actually rewind this video because we talked a lot about, you know, forcing a home position on tool change or things of that nature. Try mine. I don't know. Yeah, you can at any time you can email me an example and I'd be happy to take a look. Got that all working well. Awesome. Ads, did you ask something? Did I miss something here? Yeah, the post stuff, we're going to save on that situation to see what's going on, because there's a lot of different things and there's about a million different places for something like that. Again, anybody that's showing up currently in the viewers, feel free to ask at any time anything that you're looking for, anything you want us to take a look at, any problems you had this week. Gonna see what Jesta's got for us. I know it's some post work. You guys can send us support tickets at any time. Again, if you guys are watching this video later on, if you're like me, you're driving, you put it on, it's kind of like a podcast. Obviously, nowhere near the ability of what Joe Rogan and all those guys have, but I hope you guys do get in, listen to this when you can. Any questions you have after the fact, again, feel free to message us at any time. I will put this out here for those of you that have shown up and haven't seen it yet. We are currently doing a National Cereal Day promo because we all know you guys are absolutely hungry for learning and education. So if you guys currently are going to purchase any type of support or online trading from us here at jitcadcam for Fusion 360, we currently are running a 30% promo for that. Also, it goes hand in hand for our lovely new employee, Jordan, if you guys didn't catch that. Obviously, we had to bring on somebody to take off one of the many hats that yours truly got to wear. And Jordan is the guy. So if you guys are one of our customers or you're looking to be one of our customers, you're more than likely going to have to deal with Jordan's defense before you long get to talk to me nowadays, of course. But again, anybody and everybody has any questions, feel free to shout them out at any time in chat. Might have to cut this off early, right? My dog is trying to get into the office, scratching at the door. How can you post a photo? You would actually have to send it to the support email down below. Or if you're in Discord, you could actually post it on our Discord area as well. You could also, again, that support email would be the easiest way to send it over so I could take a look. Is it just a screenshot of your post? Just curious. Of the moves. Okay. How's everybody's week been? Mine has been hectic. Oh, let's see here. Actually, that was Jordan there. He's actually watching live. I don't know why he won't say hi in chat for some reason, but sent me a message. Um, 10G 100 XY. Are you asking about the XY location itself? We're going to give this a few more seconds here. We might have to take this one offline depending on how wild it gets. Some days I get lucky with post stuff and it's just a true false statement. Other days it's a complete rebuild of a whole post processor. Guys, I will be right back in 2 seconds. I need to let my very needy dog into my office. All right, we're back. All right, because they are called at the end of the last section. The initial position is for the last section, not on the one that's just the first thing I would point you in the direction of is I I would tell you to grab the latest version of your post. I would need to, one, I need to know what post and what version you're all using. And then two would be is what changes, and we kind of reviewed that earlier. The idea of going on to the Autodesk post library online. Again, all of the post processors, so you guys know, have previous versions. So being able to verify which is the actual minimum build you're working with. And then from that, it's possibly fixed since then. So like right here, tool chain sequence will now be simulated correctly is one thing. Connection move simulation is enabled by default. Tool assembly gauge length parameter is now used instead of overall length in compensation for the tool length. This was a big one for a lot of people. So again, it's really hard to tell without seeing examples, but yeah, so that's something I think they're still working on. It's a good question about that is for all of you that are wondering, I'll pull it up on my side if I post process. So a lot of you have started to see that there's things like safe retracts is based on 28, 53, or clearance height. Now that as a whole can make a difference. Now you will have problems if you're trying to do a clearance height with 4 and 5 axis machinery moves. However, there has been some advancements on the linking tab as well. You've emailed a photo. Let's take a look here. And you said you're using the Sile post, which isn't my post or the default Autodesk post, is it? Here's the photo. I got to download it and open it a different way for you guys to see. So the problem is it looks like it's G58 work offset, G00 Y negative X. Yeah, so it's one of those things I would have to dig into it more to see what's going on with it. Honestly, it's probably not something that's going to happen here on the live stream because there's a lot going on. But it, again, yeah, so the Sile post, there's not a Sile post by default in the Autodesk library. What controller do you have on your Sile? Just curious. The good news is you did put in a ticket, so I have that information, but the LNC control, I figured as much. And doesn't that thing take pretty much generic G code at the end of the day? Because what I would tell you to personally do is I would look at using something like the Fanic post by default, because that usually gets most people where they need to go with the bare minimums. To try to pull up some stuff on my side here real quick. You'll have to let us know, Justa. Does that actually use generic G code? Because I can't remember the Sile guy's name that writes a lot of those posts. Great guy. Talked to him a few times. Yeah, it's just... yeah, it's probably all generic G code, a couple of coolant codes that are different. Does it have what is tilted coordinates plane on it? Or is it just actually I guess I have the photo. I could just look at the photo, right? Where's that photo at? Yeah, so it's just a 4th axis machine. So you don't have tilted coordinates plane or tilted plane or anything like that. It's just a normal A-axis machine. So what I would tell you to do at the end of the day is I would use the Fanic post and just a quick glance here. Let's see here. G28, G91, Z0, that's fine. G49, that's cancel comp. A0, yeah. So personally, if it was me, I would throw the FANUC post at this machine definition, because that would probably do what you need it to do and also give you the G code that you need to run that machine. I don't know which one is Scott. I know the other guy. I'd have to pull it up on my other page here. What is his name? Is it Scott? Can't see my chat right now if you guys are talking or anything. Trying to get... Yeah, can't quite see anything. I don't know his name off the top of my head, but yeah. At the end of the day, got home in time, sent email example. Awesome. Removing the M5 before and after the drilling in a Haas lathe post. That's a good one, John. What lathe post in particular are you using? Jester, send me over your post processor when you get a chance, and I'll take a look at it and see what I can come with on my side. And we got to get this email opened up. Let's see what we got. Adaptive contour, ignoring stock outside of the contour. Okay, this should be a good one. Get this popped up in here. Oh, wrong one. Where is it here? Free Support Friday. This is the only time I know what time of the year it is this one folder that I have to create every week for you guys. Give that a second here. Let's get chat pulled back up here. Hey, huge. I would love to come to New Zealand. Haas ST25. Okay. So we got this part to start with. We got the drag paddle. And the request here is... Matt's request was something about a contour, right? Let me get the ticket pulled up. Adaptive contour, ignoring stock outside the contour. Matt, you don't have any toolpaths in here, my guy. Is adaptive... Are you looking for adaptive clearing? In the meantime, let's get a lathe part popped out here real quick, so that we can look at the M5. Oh, you know what? I know exactly what's going on. Okay, Haas ST25 with a drilling cycle. All right, we got to add a drill here first. So let's put a drilling procedure on here. And there we go. Got our drilling cycle. We post this out with our Haas ST25. We're going to have to go ahead and grab that from the library. Just the standard ST25, I'm assuming. And the problem you're getting is an M5 prior to and after drilling. So, John, I would have to ask you first and foremost, obviously, as you're seeing, is there is no M5 before or after drilling in the Haas lathe post. However, the reason why there is no M5 is because you may actually have your tool defined as a live tool. If this was a live drill, so again, this is a live tool lathe kind of scenario now, not a hard mounted tool. Between operations. Okay, we could take a look at that. So let's go ahead and pull a couple of operations here. So we're going to go ahead and use our two tool paths here. Let's post process. In between operations, there's an M5. You're talking this M5 right here. So what I would recommend if you guys are ever going to edit your post processors, a few things that I highly recommend so you can make these changes. One, you guys have probably heard this a million times now. Go ahead and install the Autodesk Fusion post utility. This allows you to have the lovely color coding as you guys are seeing here, but also it allows me to actually cheat when it comes to editing post processors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to say post process. I am actually going to switch posts to the very secret Autodesk post that's in here called the Autodesk Export CNC File to VS Code. And now what that allows me to do is generate this G code so that it is my debugger file, right? So now we open up our post. You know, it looks a little redundant at first. You guys will get used to it. Here is my post. If I go into my CNC selector now, I refresh, we'll have custom. And then by default, this is just the normal 1001. Uh-oh. There we go. And the problem is going to be sharing violation. That is a new one. Let's go ahead and refresh this all up and try this one more time. So again, this is posting as 1001. Only makes sense that we have the best of times on this show, right? I have never seen that happen. That's a new one to me. Let's close everything up and try that all over again. That's kind of a good time. So again, we could post process. Let's post our code again here real quick. Also want to take a quick look here because sometimes there is a simple enough option to turn it off. Okay. That was strange. I don't know what happened there. Delete that NC format here real quick. Export. There we go. And then let's edit that post. Actually, you know what? I think I know what is... no, we copied it over. We should be in good shape. I might have other problems. Oh, duh. You can't post from the exporter post. Is it Friday? It's Friday, right? Guys, you guys, I don't even know anymore. I'm giving up. It's over. We're shutting down the stream. My brain can't comprehend this anymore. As you can see, what I need to do is I need to edit the Haas post. And then we can go use that fancy tool. So the great thing is if you guys have our support package, or if you've ever dealt with me editing your post processor, as you just saw me do in real time, stare at this thing aimlessly trying to figure out what's going on for 10 minutes. The good news is you don't pay extra for that. And you don't have to waste your time doing that like yours truly. But what I'm looking for, now that we're back on track, is basically M5, right? So if I double click it, it will jump to the different areas of my code where it generates that code. Now, the problem is going to be depending on how and what you're doing as to whether or not it's going to be as simple as something like, you know, double / in front of where it writes that and hitting save. And just like that, we've now removed the M5 from what's going on, right? So again, is the ability with that plugin in, you can simply double click. Again, it takes you, in this case, this is where it's calling out what it should do. So we don't need to change the case of what is happening on a command stop spindle. We just need to change where we have it in our code, command stop spindle, right? So again, just a double / there on that line of code and a save. Again, this is where I tell a lot of people there may be a circumstance of if still the same spindle, let's keep it going, yada, yada, yada. As you can see, what it's doing here is get tool is live tool, then write stop spindle. So in this case, we switched to a live tool from a non-existent tool. So again, I'm going to reverse what we've done, and I'm going to repost the debug file, hopefully first try. But this time, we're actually going to edit this tool and not be a live tool, right? Edit tool, no longer a live tool. And if we repost this out, again, posting with the debugger, not editing the debugger, as you guys have all learned. We go back, again, we get our debug code. As you can see, by default, it's actually not plugging in an M5 because there is no reason for it to stop a spindle in between these two operations. So again, it depends on the post, how old your post is, John. In your case, you may have an older post that's not stopping that spindle. Or in that case, again, is if we were getting an M5 between these two, we could easily find it because it is a command stop spindle with the debugger, as you could see. Awesome. Live tool operation. Thanks. There. So, so I kind of guessed it right off the top of my head, just the ability that the machine has or does not have live tooling. That was a big one in his case that automatically dumped that M5 right off the start. So again, in your post properties menu, you do have a checkbox for got live tooling as well that can or cannot control those types of things. So now back over. So what we have here is this paddle, and his question is he's wanting to basically cut the contour of this part and basically leave these corners as what I would call as drops, right? So when he goes in to cut it, I mean, he could do something like a 2D contour in this case. I'm gonna go ahead and pick that outer ring. Now, a secret to something like this is to also turn on stock so that you can see where we can come in and cut that profile. But also this would allow you to automatically extend those edges so that you're not hitting anything, right? So in this case, that's fine. We're going to ignore the spindle speed, but by turning on contour, it now, or not contour, it turned on stock, it is now actually extended that chain automatically so that I'm starting outside my part and cutting off those two corners. Now, I'm going to need a little bit more information from you, Matt, as to what other issues you're having, but I will recommend the fact that if you are going to cut something like a piece of stock like this, or as you're saying with the nesting, we could do nesting as well. The problem is going to be because Fusion is always stock aware versus model aware. And that being said, this is still stock here. So something I would recommend if you are trying to cut drops off is to model, in this case, stock very similar to the shape of your part, right? So again, what's going to be beneficial here is instead of using just a fixed size rectangle, as you can see, he would almost be better off designing a piece of material that looks almost identical to what he has, right? So what I could do here is I could go out. If I really wanted to, I could project, of course, this outer loop. And then with that outer loop, I may need to extend those edges. And all I'm trying to do is basically recreate the profile here so that I can extrude what's left. Well, let's get rid of that little tail there. Again, grabbing all these little areas in the outer piece. Oh, hold my control key here. Oh, that's not watertight. Let's see what we got going on. We're missing the edge on this end. Of course we are. Go ahead and hit cancel here real quick. That side looks good. Let's add a line from here to here. Fill that up. There we go. Now we can basically extrude all this out. So what I'm doing right now, if you guys are wondering, is I'm just actually pre-selecting everything before I do my extrude. And then there's my extrude down. Again, yes, we would have needed to extend that further back, as you guys are seeing. Show you a little trick since we didn't do that. We'll fix that here in a second. But new body. Again, I can now extrude off this face a little bit to make that profile. And we're going to join those two. Actually, I'm going to do a new body because I've done this in a way I shouldn't have done where it is still bodies, and then combine the two sections after the fact. So now what I have is a stock, which is the whole piece, and then I have the piece I'm cutting out. So This is where if I wanted to, again, cut these drops off, but be able to use things like 3D toolpaths that are both stock and model aware, the trick would be is to not actually do the normal fixed size stock. It would be from solid. And that solid would, of course, be one of those bodies that I've modeled now, right? So if he was to go in now with any type of 3D toolpath, let's use 3D adaptive clearing, for example, is what's going to happen is it's now going to automatically recognize everything that's going on. Current machines, support the operations. So it looks like you got something else going on in your machine setup as well versus your tool setup. But as you can see now, 3D adaptive clearing, again, it's where is the stock versus where is the model. I've now modeled what I kind of want for a stock after I create that drop, right? So again, cut the corners off of it. Now that the corners were removed, we could go back to a traditional way of machining. So I hope that helps out, Matt. Anybody else has any other questions at this time? Let's go ahead and see what's going on. Current machine does not support the operation selected coolant. Go ahead and edit our tool here first and see what's going on. As you can see in our tool, our coolant is currently set to flood, which would lead me to this Karma Creations machine. Again, this is more or less a benchtop kind of router, if I'm thinking correctly. The head itself does not have actual flood coolant. It has mist coolant, or it has air, correct? So that is the error that I'm getting right now. Yep. And we could fix that. So if we edit our tool, again, I just used a random tool. I didn't pick any particular speeds and feeds, but everything is coming from that coolant down below. So again, as if we go default, we go ahead and say that's, you know, air. Again, now the tool matches the machine capabilities, right? So if we regenerate, we should have gotten rid of our error message. And we still have one, which is spindle speed is smaller than supported for this machine, which again, let's go ahead and edit the machine to take a look. These are always fun scenarios. This is why I like when you guys send in stuff so that you could see what kind of is where the problem and what it means when we look at it. So his minimum speed in this case is 6,000. His maximum is 24,000. Again, we look at that tool. I'm going to edit the tool. Again, what we're looking at here is, again, this is on me for the most part. I use the default setting. So if we bump this up to a minimum of 6,000, again, regenerate, we should be now out of the minimum threshold, removing that second error that was in place. And we are good. So this is, again, I love this, Matt. This is a great scenario for a lot of you guys out here. This is why machine definitions are so important, is because it's forecasting problems you could have. A lot of shops I go to have a tool room mill, then they have a big boy mill, right? Those two machines are two completely different operating systems when it comes down to the defined things, not only like travel limits, but machine RPM, tool pockets, all of that stuff. And that's what's predicting here in a real-time scenario. Awesome. Any other questions? Going once, going twice. Matt, I'm going to go ahead and complete out that ticket. Thank you very much for sending in that information so that we could all take a look at it. And I want to make sure we don't have any other tickets. No other tickets coming in. Just I got to get back with you at a later date. We got to look at what's going on with that machine simulation and getting that all ironed out. Anybody else have any other questions outside of that? Going once, going twice. What's the time right now? What's time on deck? We are 2:09. We are over. We are officially over. 2 hours. 2 hours we've been doing this. That's crazy, right? What do you guys think? We keep going? Do we just send it for another hour? No way. Definitely not. Not on my end of the, not on my end. I'm done. That's it. You guys are getting it. You guys ready for it? Here goes the outro. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to ask them. But as you guys know, we got a new employee, Jordan, over here. Feel free to reach out to him. Tell him congrats. Obviously, you could add him on LinkedIn at any time. You could also message him at the info@jitcadcam email down below. He'd be the guy that is going to play defense so that y'all don't blow up my phone constantly. Of course, keep in mind, we do have National Serial Day promo also going on, 30% off any custom online training, support packages for post edits. Jordan officially in the chat. Took 2 hours and 5 minutes. The guy is here to answer any questions if you guys need from the sales side of it. He also has a ton of knowledge on the machining side. Been at this for what, 5-ish years now or something? Who knows, right? But if you guys enjoyed this, got something actually valuable out of it, and you want to do more than give us a little bit of a like, for those of you not in North America, you can actually do super chats like all of those delicious beers that I will be drinking this weekend. Actually, I won't. Take that back. Remember, we're donating the beer collection this week to Jordan's energy drink addiction in his House of Pain gym at his house. But you guys can buy us beers. Obviously, if you like what you see, you can always buy your software from us, or like that big old promo we got going on, services and support packages that fit all kinds of size and shop needs. So it's not what you know, it's who you know. Y'all know Jordan over at jitcadcam, as well as yours truly. But Ben in the chat, last minute, you are going to finalize the support package once you're back in the office. Awesome. Love to hear it. Ben is another one of my guys that are across the ocean. Ben, is it Australia or New Zealand? Because I'm going to start a poll. Where do we have more guys out there? It seems like those two places are suffering the most. I need to get certified to sell you guys over in the other countries. Brisbane. There we go. Awesome. Well, guys, have a great rest of your weekend. Crack open a cold one for us over here at jitcadcam. We will see you all possibly again tonight, because I need to go check on some super secret stuff that I was going to make a video on. But if not, next Wednesday, we are going to be covering quite a bit about mighty bytes and fast jig designs for parts of multiple quantities. As always, have a good one.